Alright, what's up everyone, I'm Filoki, and today we're going to be taking a look at why the Seattle Seahawks will win Super Bowl 55. This video is going to be about the key reasons why I believe the Seahawks can have a lot of success going into this 2020-2021 NFL playoffs and possibly make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. Basically, just the key reasons why I believe they're going to be successful. There's also going to be a video out tomorrow why I believe the Seahawks are going to lose Super Bowl 55. Basically, just the key reasons why they will possibly have issues or maybe even be unsuccessful in the playoffs. And that's going to be talking about the bad things about the Seahawks going into the playoffs, where they're looking bad, what they really have shown that they haven't been doing successfully, and how that could hurt them in the playoffs. But today, we're going to be taking a look at the good things of why I believe the Seattle Seahawks can be successful in the playoffs and win Super Bowl 55. Now, the first key reason why I believe the Seahawks will be successful going into this year's playoffs is their defensive momentum. The Seahawks are one of the hottest defensive teams in the league right now going into the playoffs. Since the Week 9 game against the Bills, the Seahawks have been absolutely killing it on defense. They have not allowed a lot of points, they've gotten a lot of sacks, they've gotten some pressure on the quarterback, and overall their defense is just playing insanely well. Since the Week 9 game against the Buffalo Bills, where they allowed 44 points, the Seahawks defense hasn't allowed 23 or more points for any game in the second half of the season. They have held two different teams to single digits, albeit one of those teams was the Jets. The other team that the Seahawks held to single digit scoring, however, was the Los Angeles Rams in the Week 16 game at home. The Seahawks are going to be playing the Rams in the first week of the playoffs, so this is definitely a great matchup for the Seahawks. Of course, the Rams are probably going to have a chip on their shoulder after losing a pretty bad game to the Seahawks, where Jared Goff just played atrocious. Their run game didn't really get going, and their defense, I mean, it was playing really well, but you really can't get anywhere when your team doesn't score more than 10 points. And going into this first week of the playoffs, of course, it's a divisional game in the first round of the playoffs. It's going to be a very intense game. It's probably going to be a very close game, but Jared Goff is out with a thumb injury, and that might actually be to the benefit of the Rams. Honestly, the backup played really well last week, and Jared Goff has been playing pretty inconsistent for a lot of the year, so this might actually be a good thing for the Rams going into this Week 1 matchup, but this nonetheless is definitely a good thing for the Seahawks. They've shown that they can play defense well on the Rams, and they have been able to put up points on the Rams, so going into this Week 1 matchup, this looks good for the Seahawks. Another big thing for the Seahawks defense in the second half of the season is their sack numbers. Compared to the first half of the season, the Seahawks have absolutely destroyed in the pass rush. They have done very well. They have 34 sacks in the last 8 weeks of the season, compared to the first 8 weeks of the season where they had 12 whole sacks. The Carlos Dunlap acquisition has proved to be a very successful thing for the Seahawks. He came in, he made a direct impact, and he has definitely helped the people around him. Ever since we traded for Carlos Dunlap, it just looks like the Seahawks pass rush is so much more competent. Jamal Adams has played great this year. He broke the single season sacks record for a defensive back. He had 9.5 sacks. Bobby Wagner started blitzing a little bit. He was doing really well. Alton Robinson is a somewhat surprising guy to come in. He had 4 sacks. He was playing pretty well. Of course, we had Benson Mayowa, who was doing really well. We had Jarren Reed, who was looking kind of like that 2018 Jarren Reed, and really, we were just playing really well as a team. Carlos Dunlap, of course, was playing really well too. Just our pass rush looked like it was getting a lot better, and that definitely helped our secondary, which was looking absolutely atrocious in the first half of the season. Speaking of the first half of the season, in that first half of the season, the Seahawks defense was on pace to completely shatter a record for the most yards given up in a season. We were giving up 400 to 500 yards per game, just every single game. Just easily teams were putting up yards on us, putting up points, and our secondary wasn't looking great. Our pass rush wasn't looking great. However, in this second half of the season, we are doing a lot better in that aspect. Of course, once again, that Week 9 game against the Bills seems to be the turning point. Since that game, the Seahawks have allowed 200 to 300 yards per game, which isn't bad compared to that 400, 500 that they were allowing in the first half of the season. Some of the reasons why I believe the Seahawks became a lot more successful in the second half of the season was, one, easier offensive opponents. We didn't play too many great offenses in that span of the last 8 games. We played solid offenses, but nothing crazy like the Bills in Week 9, which we showed that we did not do well. Another thing was our team just getting healthy. Our defensive players started getting back on the field, started getting some chemistry. Everyone was starting to gel, and we just played a lot better. Of course, Marquise Blair and Bruce Irvin went down early on in the season, never came back, but some of the players that were out 3-4 weeks, like Jamal Adams, came back, and then the team just started just playing insanely good on defense. And also, the third reason why I believe this team became a lot better defensively was actually reason number 2. The Seahawks have healthy running backs going into the playoffs this year, and that is something that I believe is huge for this team. Obviously, the second half of the season where the running backs were healthy, the Seahawks showed that they could actually run the ball, they could put together longer drives, more time-consuming drives, and that allowed the defense to actually get some rest. Early on in the season, the Seahawks were focusing a lot on the passing game, and they were really relying on that. Their run game didn't work too well, and when the passing game wasn't working well, the defense had to get on the field a lot, and they really never got any time for rest. That was going on basically through the first half of the season, where we weren't running the ball too well. We had a couple games where we had won the time of possession battle, but most of the time of possession was not not looking great for the Seahawks. So our defense really was on the field a lot. They were getting tired, and the offense wasn't producing too well. And even when they were putting together very short drives, so the defense had to get right back on the field. Now, no matter how good of defensive players you have, when they're tired and the other team's offense isn't tired, it's not going to go well for the team, because, you know, when the offense isn't putting together long drives, the defense is on the field more. They're just going to get tired and tired throughout the duration of the game. The defense really, no matter how good it is going to get worse throughout the game if the offense is not able to put together long time consuming drives. And if we completely lose the time of possession battle, then the defense is going to be hurt by that. Having healthy running backs going into this year is something that I believe will completely and utterly change how the Seahawks play compared to last season's playoffs. Of course, last year's playoffs, both Chris Carson and Rashaad Penny were out, and they were dealing with some pretty big injuries, so we had to sign Marshawn Lynch, and then we had Travis Homer as our main guy. Marshawn Lynch was kind of the power back, so really the running game was not great in that playoff span. We did beat the Eagles, but the Eagles were not a good team, and when we went against the Packers, where we had to keep our defense off the field as long as possible because our defense wasn't great against such a great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, we did not look great. So it did not work out too well. Our running backs being back this year is definitely going to be a lot better for the Seahawks. We'll be able to hopefully put together some longer drives, get our defense off the field, keep them well rested, and allow them to go back, play defense, and actually have some energy to actually play that defense. One thing that did slightly worry me last week against the 49ers in week 17 was Rashaad Penny and Chris Carson both dealing with some pretty minor injuries. Chris Carson had some ear problems, and he also had some other things that was going on that kept him out a couple plays. Rashaad Penny had some cramps. They both will most likely be playing next game because they'll be fine. They were just little minor tweaks that they were dealing with, but still, you don't want to see the running back get injured at all, especially since we've seen the history of how Chris Carson and Rashaad Penny get injured late in the season. But one of the main reasons why I believe having the running backs healthy this year going into the playoffs is going to be very good for the Seahawks is time of possession. Time of possession was something that the Seahawks struggled with a lot in this 2020 season. Of course, we had that Vikings game where we lost a time of possession battle by 20 minutes. We had a couple other games where we were losing time of possession battles by 10 minutes. We had a couple games where we did win time of possession, but when we did win time of possession, it was by like a minute or two, and when we would lose, it'd be like 5, 10, 20 minutes. So time of possession was something that was obviously a problem for the Seahawks, not being able to put together those long time-consuming drives, and in those games, our defenses looked the worst. And I mean, that's something that I think will be a lot better going into the playoffs. And, you know, having running backs, being able to put together those long time-consuming drives will, one, make our defense better, and two, allow Russell Wilson to hopefully make some of those bigger plays that he was making earlier on in the season. Of course, I wouldn't say our running backs are any crazy receiving backs like Alvin Kamara or Christian McCaffrey or anything like that, but having running backs that are solid and that can actually run hard and run through people, making defenses have to actually push up and focus on the run a little bit when you do run to actually be able to stop it, allows for our offense to run some play action and make some big plays. And that's something that the Seahawks have been missing in that second half of the season. We have been playing some really good defenses, but still, you would like to see the explosive big plays that we were seeing earlier on in the season. And although those big plays do lead to less time-consuming drives, those are just instant touchdowns that bring the offense a lot of momentum. And if the defense can come on the field and get a stop, and even if they can't, the offense gains a lot of momentum from those big plays. And that's something that the defenses have to watch out for. It's made the run game a lot better recently. In the second half of the season, we've been doing a lot better, well over 100 yards per game in the run game. We're doing really good there. So our run game has proven that it can be good. The run game allows our defense to do a lot better because we can take more time off the clock, give the defense more rest. And three, the Seahawks offense is a lot better when you can run the ball because we can run play action and make great passing plays. I definitely believe that having healthy running backs going into this year's playoffs is going to be the backbone for the Seahawks' success this year, not only because it helps our defense get some more rest, get some energy, not only is it a viable offensive strategy to run the ball and run the ball well, but this leads me into number 3. The third reason why I believe the Seahawks are going to have success in the 2020-2021 NFL playoffs is their explosive offense. And I mentioned it a little bit before, the running game is definitely a big part in how explosive the offense can be. When you look at the Seahawks offense on a talent level, they are absolutely stacked. Russell Wilson is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Chris Carson and Rashaad Penny are two really good running backs. Alex Collins has proved that he can definitely be a great number 3 option if those two are going to be out of the game. And DK Metcalf is an amazing wide receiver who can beat any corner with his speed and strength, and he can win jump balls with his height. Tyler Lockett is someone who just can make any catch, it seems like. He can get open, he is a great underneath guy, and he can also make those over-the-top catches. David Moore is a great number 3 option, and we also have some really good options as our 4 and 5 in Freddie Swain and Penny Hart, both of which can easily take those underneath routes, some drag routes for some extra yards with their speed. We also have an amazing tight end group with Greg Olsen coming back for the playoffs. We have Will Dissly, Jacob Hollister, and Colby Parkinson, all of which have proved that they can catch the ball and block effectively for the Seattle Seahawks offense. Now, of course, there's a lot of question marks about the Seahawks offensive line. They've played really poorly in some games, but they've played really great in other games. So we really have to hope that the Seahawks offensive line comes out and plays at their best, because if they don't, we're going to have some issues. But if they do play at their best, they have proven that they can protect Russell Wilson competently and very effectively, and that leads to our offense being a lot more successful when our offensive line plays well. The Seahawks offense has been quite successful and very effective this year. They're running the ball really well, averaging over 100 yards per game. They're passing the ball efficiently behind their run game. They're putting up touchdowns. Their field goals are going in. Jason Myers hasn't missed a field goal. Just everything's really going right for the Seahawks offense. Of course, we have slowed down in the second half of the season, but early on in the season, we were playing absolutely amazing. A huge thing for the Seahawks offense is the turnovers. When the Seahawks offense can keep the turnovers down, they seem to be unbeatable. They haven't lost a game this year where they had 1 or fewer turnovers in a game. They did, however, lose every single game where they had 2 or more turnovers this year. So really, if we can keep the turnover numbers down, I do believe this offense is going to be successful, and the entire team is going to be successful. In the second half of this season, the Seahawks offense no doubt slowed down, but our defense has definitely stepped up. The run game has done a lot better in the second half, so we really haven't been making too many big plays or really relying on too many big plays by the Seahawks passing game like we did early on in the season. And really, I think that's a good thing. Although I would like to see Russell Wilson being utilized more earlier on, it seems like we're going back to like the 2018-2019 days where Russell Wilson really wasn't used until the fourth quarter, where he had to make a miraculous comeback. But he has definitely proven that he can make those comebacks, and our defense has been playing really well when they needed to. So it shows that we can definitely win games. I would love to see Russell Wilson utilized a lot more in the first, second, and third quarter. That's what the whole let Russ cook thing was about, and that's what we were seeing early on in the season, but we didn't see the run game successful like it was now. So if we can have the run game be successful, and we can have Russell Wilson be utilized and make those big plays earlier on in the game, not forcing the big plays, but having the option to make the big plays, or let him throw the ball, be more dynamic earlier on instead of just making him go out in the fourth quarter and make some miraculous comeback, I think our team can be very successful in the playoffs. We have a good run game, a very hot defense, very momentum-based defense who is doing really well right now. We are dealing with some injuries with Jarren Reed and Jamal Adams, but I do think our defense is going to be fine going into this game. So if our offense can play well, our run game can do good, and Russell Wilson can be utilized earlier on and make those big plays potentially and keep those turnovers low, I believe the Seahawks can have a lot of success this year. And one final thing that I want to talk about before I go is the level of competition the Seahawks has faced. Now, of course, the offenses haven't been great against the Seahawks in the second half of the season, and that's partially one reason why the Seahawks defense has been so great. But the Seahawks offense has been going against some very great defenses. In our last 3 games, which we won all 3, going into this playoff game against the Rams, we played 3 of the arguably top 5 defenses. That is the Washington football team, the Los Angeles Rams, and the San Francisco 49ers. Now, it's debatable about the San Francisco 49ers because they are dealing with a lot of injuries, but the Rams are no doubt a top 2, top 3, maybe even top 1 defense in the league. The Washington football team are an absolutely amazing pass rush. They have really good players on defense. They're a well-coached defense, and we held them to 0 sacks. And the 49ers, I mean, although they are definitely injured, they're still a very solid team, very well-coached defense. So they are one of the best defenses in the league still, in my opinion, although they have been injured, so that is arguable. But we've been playing some really good defenses going into this playoff game, and we've proven that we can beat some great defenses. It is going to be interesting to see how the Seahawks defense can play against better offenses if we do end up going and beating the Rams and playing either the Packers or the Buccaneers or something like that. But we'll see what happens when the time comes. I definitely have a lot of faith in the Seahawks going into the playoffs, but I don't think that we're a perfect team. I don't think that our success is imminent. I don't think that it's inevitable. I think the Seahawks definitely have the potential to fail, and that's what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. But today, I just wanted to talk about the things that I think the Seahawks can do well and what will lead them to success in the playoffs. And I definitely think that these reasons for success are reasons why I think the Seahawks definitely can win the Super Bowl. I think these are things that can lead the Seahawks to a road of success. Defense wins championships, and the offense, as long as they can play well, not turn the ball over, run the ball well, get Russell Wilson involved, I think we play well. I think we can beat just about any team in the playoffs, whether that's NFC, AFC, great offense, great defense. defense, I think the Seahawks have a lot of potential going into these playoffs. But with that, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know down below what you thought about this video. Make sure you go ahead and watch the video tomorrow about why the Seahawks will lose the Super Bowl. You know, I don't want to just be this one-sided guy where I talk about all the good things about the Seahawks. I want to talk about the bad things about the Seahawks, because the Seahawks have definitely shown that they have some bad things about them. They are not a perfect team whatsoever, but I will talk about that tomorrow when the time comes. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought about this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and with that, I'd like to thank you for watching. Have a great day.